It's time for the Cannabis PowWow Show with Trinity the Hempman Mealer. The show where the community comes together to talk all things cannabis. Brought to you by Tennessee Hemp Supply.
Well, let's get started with the powwow. Good morning, Jason, Hunter.
Good morning, Trinity.
Good morning.
How are y'all doing today?
I'm doing well.
Couldn't be better. Beautiful day in the neighborhood.
Absolutely. In Cookville, it's great weather this morning.
Absolutely.
Start of football season. I mean, are y'all excited about that? College football?
Oh yeah, college and professional.
Yeah.
It's the talk of the town now, right? We're in the South. People live and die for these days.
And if your team is Tennessee out there and you're not expected to do so well this year, as a dog fan myself, maybe some CBD for your anxiety could help you.
And this might be the time to load up.
That's right.
Yeah.
It could be a tough season out there, but it's going to be fun. And go out there and enjoy your Saturday. Listen, hemp and CBD is all the rage right now, and with good reason. Tell us a little bit about what you guys are doing in this budding industry, Jason.
Well, Volunteer Botanicals is a company that's been around a little over a year, but we've been in the cannabis space personally for well over 10 years in a variety of different roles. And what we've seen over the course of the last few years is with CBD taking off, we are really in a unique position to see what happens from moving to basic CBD formulations and getting science and universities testing these products and pushing us to the next step of formulating. And
meaning the roundabout cannabinoids, right?
Exactly.
All the cannabinoids.
And not just cannabinoids like CBD or CBN or THC, which we all hear about, but different formulations. And different ratios. Some products maybe have a different solubility or bioavailability, and these are terms that medical practitioners use. And as we move forward as an industry, it's very important to consider how best to consume these products and how your body takes them up. And the exciting part, Trinity, is we're moving now that we have all these different universities testing this because the hemp bill that passed in December opened the door. And Volunteer Botanicals understands we work with different chemists and different universities that are studying our formulations. So we take these oils and we formulate them into different delivery methods. And what I mean by that is we take a basic CBD oil and we might turn it into a powder. That powder could be used for different pharmaceutical applications. So we're moving in a new direction with the industry, and Volunteer Botanicals has helped creating these raw ingredients for people like yourself, medical practitioners, doctors, and pharmacists to formulate new and better products. And we're on the precipice of some really cool things happening.
We've been using your products for our formulations and our products in our store since you've started your company, and we're very excited about the feedback that we're getting and anecdotal evidence from our clients for the powders and for the water-soluble things.
Well, we appreciate you saying that because that's, without having science testing these things, which they are now, we have some local universities testing our formulations, it is all anecdotal at this point. And I think that's it's exciting about the industry is we're seeing a blossoming industry just based on word of mouth.
Just anecdotal.
Anecdotal.
We tell our clients every day.
You're your best advocate.
We're 10 years, decades behind in research, and we are constantly striving to get better at that research and find out more things about this plant and about the wonderful benefits that it has. And we tell people constantly that this is just what we know right now, and this is how it's reacting. This is what people are coming back and giving us feedback and telling us about. And
you're exactly right. We talk about CBD now, but give it a year or 2 years, and we might be talking about completely different cannabinoids or ratios of cannabinoids to add to CBD to make these things work better. And the only way we're getting there is having the legal means to study the plant and to come up with some good physical data. And once we get that physical data, companies like ourselves, Volunteer Botanicals, now we can custom formulate a product revolved around that physical data. And this is where the market's going. And we're excited about it, not just to take what's in front of you, but let's maybe even create customized medicines, right? If we're learning that a specific ratio helps someone with seizures or a specific formulation will reduce somebody's tics that have Tourette's, this is something we need to pay attention to, not just
CBD.
Not just CBD and not on an
terpenes, it's everything in the cannabis
Absolutely. Plant. We all know that this plant has well over 100 different cannabinoids, and that's just one component of the plant. Just like Hunter mentioned, there are terpenes, there are plant oils, there are different ways to extract these mediums to make the body take them up in a better way. And man, we're about to open the floodgate. I would say that this is truly the tipping point of our country taking the reins of this industry and pushing it to the next level. And I'm excited that you're behind it. You're testing our products. I'm excited that you're such an advocate for this plant, and us together working and putting these different pieces together will allow this industry to truly blossom. And no pun intended, it's an exciting time. It's a harvest time for all of us, especially our clients that are taking the medicines. And we're not supposed to call it medicines, but let's be real. We're all here as people who deal with these clients, and we see the impact that this plant is having on them. And I don't know what it takes to call it a medicine, but hopefully pretty soon that we can use those terms freely, because it's absolutely helping people.
State government.
Yeah, if you reduce someone's pain level or anxiety level
Or number of seizures.
That's a medicine. That's why we're encouraging the FDA to get involved. We're doing the things the right way and leading the industry with our practices. And so when the FDA comes in, they're going to be talking to companies like ours about how to regulate this.
And I think that's important, because we're in an industry now that's fairly unregulated, and with no regulation means there's a lot of trouble within a market, and there's a lot of products that maybe aren't what they say they are. There's a lot of products that don't really do what people hope they do, so people get a really bad...
It crushes my spirit when we have a client come in and say, this is just snake oil.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Those two words, snake oil, has such a terrible connotation to it, and that's something we're constantly striving to fight against. That's why we want to get you in the right vehicle for CBD or for the cannabinoids. Again, that's a tough word to say. I've got my country slang going in there. It is cannabis. It is endocannabinoid system. But hey, most of our listeners don't even know what the endocannabinoid system is, much less that the phytocannabinoids found in cannabis feed that endocannabinoid system. That's an important part of the education of this plant and what we're doing.
And that's, I think, what scientists and local universities, even here in the state of Tennessee, without mentioning what universities are working on it, there are a few universities here working, and that's the future of where this is going.
Right on. Well, I have mentioned Middle Tennessee State. It's pretty obvious they've been working on it.
Yeah.
And without sharing the information, we've got some really good research coming out very soon.
Absolutely.
I can't wait to have some of the key players in that here on the show to discuss it and discuss what we've learned here over the past 3 years. The hemp pilot program in Tennessee has pushed us to be one of the leaders in the hemp industry.
Yeah, I think we've grown from 250 applications last year in farmers to well over 3,000. And with the university studying it, with the Department of Ag being so progressive with their approach to getting farmers to farm the plant, this really is positioning our state to be a leader in the South, to understand the plant, to produce the best products based from this plant, and then to have the university studying this plant. So we're doing the groundwork. Tennessee and the Department of Ag, they're really the ones that need to be commended for their work early on in an industry that's so new.
We all are actually farming this year, correct?
We are. We have only an acre, about 700 plants.
Well, we found that's plenty to fill your time, correct?
Absolutely. It's a little bit overwhelming.
All those farmers out there.
Yeah, it's hard work. This isn't dropping corn in the ground and cutting it down and just being done with it. And I think a lot of farmers are seeing this, that it is a great opportunity. It's a great crop that we potentially can add in as a different cash flow vehicle, using it between as a bumper crop with corn and what they're already doing. But not only that, it requires a ton of work, and the learning curve is steep. And having the Department of Ag working very close with these farmers and everybody sharing information is what it's going to take, because we don't have the same types of environments that maybe California has for growing these plants. So we have our own hurdles here that we don't really understand just yet. So hats off to the farmers. Humidity, funguses, molds.
Bug control.
But, I mean, you name it. I feel like we've experienced it.
It's important, especially in extract, that you concentrate everything that's in that plant. So you don't want to have the pesticides.
Absolutely not.
As little stuff added to it as possible.
Organic. And there are some organic farms in Tennessee. The farmers that have gone through the work to create an organic certified
And it's not easy. I think this is probably the hardest plant to farm organically because of what it requires, and then the curing and taking care of it after the fact. And we live in a very wet, moist state, and it always rains, especially in the fall. So the opportunity for molds and mildews and funguses are extremely high, and those things attack the cannabis plant. So we're learning together, and I think we're going to find in the next few years that there are specific cultivars that we need to be farming here in the South that might be very different than other parts of the country.
Well, because we're a processor at Tennessee Hemp Supply, we've had lots of farmers calling and reaching out to us, and one of the best advice I can give them is to be diverse. Think of your plant and your crop as many different uses. There's 50,000 uses of hemp, and we're going to talk a little bit of that in the second half. But there's to be diverse and to grow some for the smokables, grow some for the extractions, grow some for fiber. You know, like let's really dive into all the different things that you can use this plant for, and that's kind of the advice I've given the farmers, and they've been calling. They're really trying to reach out
to market.
Trying to get it to market. That's right. Well, listen, we need to take a break right here. So let's pause and take a quick break. Don't go away. We'll be right back with more Cannabis PowWow with the Hemp Man on the News Talk 107. Welcome back to Cannabis PowWow with the Hemp Man. We are here with my co-host Hunter Dew and special guest Jason Pickle. Jason, we were discussing sweating your ass off in the hemp fields here before the break, and talk just a little bit more about the challenges you face, because I'm sure these farmers out there that are listening are definitely can relate to this.
Yeah, it is not. This isn't an easy process, and you really need a plan because the amount of work that you put in. It's not put a seed in the ground and go harvest the thing like we do corn at the end of the day, and the amount of work that's put in from proper genetics to taking care of the plant, feeding the plant, understanding the pest problems, like Hunter mentioned, understanding the problems with the funguses, how to harvest, how to dry it, how to cure it, and then having a plan on where it's going afterwards. This isn't a commodity. We don't have a spot price. We are blazing our own trail. It's a business, and having a plan, not just having 100 acres, is more important. And we did 1 acre, and 1 acre we got about 700 plants down, and the amount of work on that 1 acre is mind-boggling.
I remember y'all planting those and seeing the feed and the pictures and things.
You get so excited because you think, oh wow, this is going to be great, and then you actually have the infrastructure work, the sweat equity that you have to put into it, and man, it is not easy.
I think we may have sold some of your workers the Cannaveric sunscreen. The aloe vera after it had CBD in it. The sun was unrelenting out there.
Yeah.
Well, that brings us to hemp history. I'd like to every show just talk a little bit about hemp history and familiarize people with that. And did you know that hemp paper is naturally acid-free and does not yellow as quickly as tree pulp-based paper? Hemp paper, hundreds of years old and found in museums, has not yellowed, and is thus a high-quality paper of archival quality. Hemp paper.
Hemp paper.
Right?
Yeah.
Just
Isn't that what the
50,000
Declaration of
uses.
Independence is written on?
That's what it says, right?
Yeah, Bill of Rights.
crazy.
And it's funny, that hemp paper has been found thousands of years old in tombs, in Chinese tombs. This is not a new thing. And for us to discount it, to say we can cut down trees that take 80 years to grow, when we could cut down a hemp field that takes 4 months to grow and get more paper out of that hemp field than you can for forests, we're beginning to change the paradigm of kind of what this plant can do. And paper was one way to look at it, but there's a lot. Yeah, there's so many uses of this plant that right now we're focusing on CBD and the medical value in it. But as we move this industry forward and the state of Tennessee continues to farm this plant, these new industries are going to pop up left and right. And plastics are another one. There's
the industrial
hemp also pulls a lot of the carbon dioxide out of the air.
It does. It pulls carbon dioxide out of the air, and it also pulls the metals and junk out of the soil.
Yep.
So it's a cleanser. Not only does it do that for our body, but it does it for the earth.
Ecosystem. Exactly.
And so we've spent years trashing our bodies, and we've spent years trashing the soil in our terrible farming practices. So it really has an opportunity to open new gateways on what we can do with the plants that we're putting in the ground. And not only that, it makes us pay attention more to our other crops, right? If we were realizing that we need to take care of this plant and not spray junk on it and clean up our soil.
Why do we do it to anything else?
Why don't we do it to anything else? It's a new paradigm for farming, and hemp, not only its uses, but how you farm this plant might begin to change the way that we're farming our food. And
one of my favorite history facts on hemp is that it was the #1 livestock feed before it was made illegal in the nation.
Mm-hmm.
We were ingesting
all the cattle.
Yep. And that's another thing Dr. Altman at MTSU talks about is if we fed our animals the same types of medicines that we're trying to feed ourselves.
You
Think,
need medicine.
Absolutely.
You be taking in all the time.
yeah, they're going to take those fatty acids, they're going to take those cannabinoids in, and they're going to manifest that through their body. So they're going to be a healthier animal. They won't need the antibiotics, and which we in turn, especially in the South, we love our meat, and
right.
we should be eating healthy meat.
Hormones,
Absolutely.
antibiotics,
Yeah, it's
just-
very real. And so the more hemp we plant, and it's a strange thing to say, the better off we all are. And we're just at the very beginning of truly understanding what that means, but the future is bright, and our farmers are paving the way for it. It's a really cool place to be in Tennessee.
I'll say often that the prohibition of cannabis is one of the biggest heists in world history.
It is.
It really took
It is.
from the people and from this world.
And especially hemp. You know, I agree on cannabis as a whole. A lot of people don't like the aspect of, oh, well, marijuana gets you high. And what I ask people is, well, then are you mad at the marijuana plant, or are you mad at the cannabis plant? Because cannabis has another version, and it's called hemp. And hemp doesn't get you high.
Are you mad at the Delta 9?
Right.
Can
And if you
I-
are, then
get rid
that's
of
on
that.
you. Yeah, then that's on you. But you can't point that same finger at the hemp plant. And the hemp plant has been jumbled up into this mess of marijuana, cannabis, and hemp. And so there's a lot of confusion there, and that was done for a reason.
Absolutely.
That was done for a reason. If we're
make it
confused,
easy.
yeah, and we think it's all bad, we can sweep it all under the rug and it goes away. But
You can herd us all into the corral
Right,
and make
right.
us believe the same thing.
But hemp is hemp. It doesn't get you high. And so because of that, we should stop looking at it like marijuana and then realize the benefit that the plant actually offers outside of getting high. There's nothing to be concerned about. If you're just concerned about getting high, then stay away from marijuana.
Yeah,
But
stay away from those high THC levels.
that's right. That's right. But we have a different plant here. It looks very similar, smells very similar, is farmed in a similar way, but it has a very
It's
different...
smoked in a similar way.
Absolutely, yeah, but it doesn't get you high.
That's right.
So there's a lot of confusion here in the state of Tennessee, and I think you've probably dealt with it even more than we have as product creators. And it's up to us. That's why I think Trinity likes to do these radio shows, because the more we understand, the more we can break down our old paradigms. And it's up to us.
Education and advocacy
Absolutely.
of this plant has been in the forefront of our wellness journey since we started our first store.
And it's up
We're
to
the
us.
first hemp dispensary to put the buds in a jar,
Right.
to sell it as a smokable flower.
So
you
We
took
knew
the
that
risk.
was-
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You took the risk.
And we
Combat
knew
that
that was going to
stereotype.
bring shed light on this industry that people would be able to come in and get educated about.
It's
You
a scary thing to put a hemp bud into a jar and tell people that they can consume it.
And it won't get them high.
And it won't get them high, when it
and
sure
that
looks like it
and that
will.
It's one of the best ways to ingest it.
Absolutely. Yep.
And speaking of one of the best ways to ingest it, water soluble is a term that's out there in this industry and in the pharmaceutical industry altogether. You were one of the forefront of the water soluble CBD industry. You've got some exciting things coming out. Talk a little bit about what you can about water soluble and how that's
Absolutely.
impacted people.
Like I said earlier, we are formulating, we're a post-formulator. So we come in after these labs formulate and turn their products into oils, distillate, which is a very pure, high concentrated, full spectrum CBD oil, or an isolate, which is only a CBD powder. We take those raw ingredients and our chemist formulates them into different delivery methods. Like Trinity said, water solubles, flowable powders, which are pharmaceutical grade powders that would be used in tablets, chewables, things you would put maybe under your tongue, and all of these delivery methods that a doctor might give you in medicine. And then we have a third formulation, which is a miscible powder, and that powder is used in food and beverages. And what we found is this post-formulation is a very new industry within the CBD business, but it's been in the pharmaceutical space for a long time. And its roots are based in how do we make the medicine better, right? We all can have the medicine, but
It's
if the
based around the liver eating up a lot of that.
Absolutely, yeah. And when you consume an oil, we are our body is a water vehicle, right? And what happens when you mix oil with water?
Separates.
Separates. So let's think about that with CBD oil. Everyone says CBD oil, CBD oil. That's what you hear online.
See
It's
them
what
putting it in drinks and things.
Absolutely.
No,
Yeah, it's what you see on the news. We associate CBD with oil.
Yes.
And what
And gummies.
And
gummies.
gummies, absolutely. Which is a very interesting delivery method.
Yes.
But what we're beginning to see at Volunteer Botanicals is we reformulate that because there are better ways for your body to take it up. Your body wants to take it up in a soluble format. And so these powders and the water-soluble vehicles you were talking about allow you to take a lot less of the product and your body get more. You just mentioned your gut. Once it hits, an oil hits your gut, it now needs to be digested. So the process of consuming an oil, which already is hydrophobic, it does not mix with water.
Right.
You're putting it into water, and then that oil hitting your gut, which it begins to get eaten up by your stomach acid, to have it manifest through your body well over an hour after you consume it, we lose the majority of it.
5 to 15%.
Right. So that's what we take up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're
about 6 to
losing
15% is what
almost
we say.
80+% of the medicine that we're trying to consume.
Yes.
So we need to pay attention to that. And
So if you take your CBD oil and you put it into a drink, 1,000 milligram oil, you're going to uptake about 50 to 150 milligrams of that 1,000 milligrams that you paid for.
right, and that's not much.
That is
You're
not
losing
bad.
the majority of it.
80% of your money away
If,
every
if, that,
time.
if it's working for you, putting it into your drinks, you're very susceptible to CBD, and you can spend less money on it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
$10, like $20 a week, you could probably easily get all the benefits from you just from smoking.
Right.
And smoking is the cheapest way to see if CBD will help you.
Yep, it's the lowest cost per milligram.
Exactly.
Absolutely, and you get tons
Instant
of milligrams in
reaction.
it.
Right.
And yeah, 30 seconds to 2.5 minutes.
Yeah,
That's
and it's the same thing with our water-soluble products or our powders, our pharmaceutical-grade powders or flowable powders, is we're learning that when we consume this product in those mediums, the body knows what to do with it. And so because of that, it doesn't take an hour for our body to digest it. It begins to manifest as soon as it hits, and we're seeing that you don't need to take as much. So I know
Right.
you have a lot of people that come into your store and they say, give me the most potent oil.
Yes.
Well, they could potentially save a ton of money by buying a lower potency water-soluble product or an edible that has this ingredient in it. And they may not understand that yet. And I think this is where science is going, but we're so early in the industry that I feel like we kind of have an early view of not only the different cannabinoids, but different ways that your body can take that in. And Volunteer Botanicals is really excited about creating these raw ingredients because we know, we've seen them in action, that they work better than typical oil-based products.
And coming soon, we've got research to prove it.
Absolutely.
And we're still
State
decades
certified.
behind our research.
Absolutely.
You know, I was talking about the endocannabinoid system. How does it react with other vegetables that we already have?
We don't know.
Properly grown vegetables.
We
without
will
the
know.
pesticides and things. Absolutely. We're going to find out more and more because of the legislation and Donald Trump passing the Farm Bill.
Oh, yeah.
And signing the
It
Farm Bill.
opened the
and
floodgates
it
for us.
opened the floodgates for us to really understand what we're putting in our bodies and the wonderful benefits of hemp, as we've talked about. There's so many. Please do your research on it. And if you're out there and you want to have a question answered, we'd encourage you to reach out to the hempmantn@gmail.com. That email address again is the hempmantn@gmail.com. And Jason, thanks for being here today.
Oh man, it's great. I love talking hemp.
You're
and
so informative. We're
Oh,
going to
yeah.
bring you back.
I'm happy to do
host
it.
a show here.
I'm happy to do it. And it's people like you, Trinity, and your team that you guys are the trendsetters. And without people who are willing to take the risk and put themselves out on the line to fight the good fight, which you do. I know you don't sleep, and you have events.
Sharks
and
don't sleep.
You don't,
Oh, yeah.
and absolutely, and I respect that. And the big picture is when we all come together as a team and we can provide some materials for you to use within your formulations, you can give us feedback that they're working. We're able to spread the gospel of this plant because it is truly a miracle plant.
It is.
And we're in a really neat space to be able to shed some light on a plant that's been hiding in the dark a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Years.
Yeah, it's
Generations
long
of
overdue.
people.
It
Long
is
overdue.
very overdue. Well, thanks again, everybody. I appreciate it. I appreciate you for listening. Thanks for joining us today on the Cannabis PowWow. We appreciate your time and hope you learned something. Until next week, get up, get out and move and enjoy that Saturday afternoon, college football starting. And remember, at Tennessee Hemp Supply, we provide Tennessee-grown wellness. This is the Hemp Man.